What's up, guys? Today me and my dad installed my glow shift gauges into my crash pad. These used to sit over there into a pillar pod, but when we installed the fender mirrors, it was blocking my sight. Couldn't see the mirror. I was like, well, this is stupid. So what's the best way to fix this, you know? And I think we found the solution. Mount them right here, just like they did in the old Group B rally cars. My dog decided to join me. What's up, Diesel? What you doing, punk? Alright, so to explain the wiring, since I have 4 gauges, what I did was I added a fuse block, and what you do is you run a wire from the accessory wire on the ignition harness, and that's what you can use to power up the fuse block with. As you can see, it's my custom fuse block. You can get these cheap on eBay, or depending on whatever one you want. I went with the 6 because I wasn't going to put too much stuff. I knew at the max I was only going to add 4 circuits. So that's it. The big wire is what comes from the ignition harness. The other 2 wires are the powers for my gauges. I'm actually powering 2 gauges simultaneously. So basically, instead of putting a 3 amp like the booklet would say, since I'm running 2 power wires together from the gauges, I put a 5 amp, and it seems to be working real good. So yeah, that's that. Come up here. Let's go inside my glove box. That is the whole harness from the gauges, and the yellow is memory wire. That way it will save the colors, save your settings. And what I did with that is I tapped that into the memory of the radio. Either that, or you can run that straight to the battery, but I like my stuff looking clean. Another thing is you'll see the vacuum line from the boost gauge. That runs right out the firewall. On these old Hondas, being that I don't drive too far, I figured I'd eliminate my cruise control. So eliminating cruise control, it made an opening in the firewall, and it allowed me to run my vacuum line and also the cable to go all the way to the O2 sensor of the wideband. So both those are running out my above my throttle pedal. Also, with the oil pressure gauge, there's another connector that I got to run through the firewall, and that is this one right here. It's for the sensor that's going to take place into the block. And where I'm going to mount that through is I have a grommet right there. As you can see, I already ran wires, but I'm also going to run that cable out there into the oil pressure sensor, and that should do that. Over here, those are the grounds. Basically, you can run all the grounds together if you wanted to, and just ground everything right here, or you can run grounds on the metal brace for the dash. That's another good one because that ties into the chassis also. Another thing, in the harness, if you're wondering, all the red wires, those are all your power wires. So depending on how you want to run them, you can do like I did, connect them together, or you can run them into a fuse block, or you can run them into your fuse box with a tap, and you can actually just tap a port, make it real easy. The orange wire is for the headlight switch. Basically, that's like for the gauges to for the lighting to come on with your headlights, you know, make everything look clean. But with glow shift, they did it backwards. It's actually a dimmer wire. So what I did was I tapped that into the backlight for basically the cigarette lighter, because when you turn the ignition switch, that light comes on. So I tapped into that wire. Made it real easy. What I also like about this is my wideband. Every time you disconnect the battery, you have to recalibrate this thing. And to change settings, it was a pain in the ass to always have to take out the pillar pod to get to the back, press buttons on the back, you know, set it up. This is awesome. You know, you just basically take down the glove box, put your hand up here. You now have access to reset the gauge, do what you need to, put it on any feel you want, and that's that. Yeah, everything's pretty straightforward. You can use bullet connectors, or you can use spade terminals. That way, if you ever have to take the dash out for a heater core, you're not chopping wires, you just unhitch, that's it. So that is the grommet above the throttle pedal. That's where my cable goes into my wideband. That's where my wideband's O2 sensor is. My actual O2 for the ECU sits on top of the manifold, basically like the 1990 Hondas. Yeah. Just in case you didn't know, my clock is actually a volt gauge. It allows me to monitor my power, so I know like if my alternator's working or how much voltage my battery's putting out. The way I mounted this a long time ago, I actually used those quick connect connectors that I was trying to explain to a friend, so I'm going to show you. The power actually goes to my fuse box down here, and that is what I'm talking about. Basically, you can add a circuit. So this is the power from my volt gauge, which is my clock, and you can just tap in, just put it on whichever one comes on with accessories. If that's when you want it to come on, you just add in another fuse and it takes place of the existing fuse, and that's it. So basically, if you want to do this to like low shift gauges, you can do the exact same thing. The power wire can just come into this connector, and let's see if I can get it. Yep, it looks just like that. One of the fuses for the volt gauge, the other one is actually for what you're taking place of. And yeah, it just mounts right into your fuse box. And then you just ground it where you need to ground it, and everything should be good.